But what is laziness? For example, if you are someone who's miserable with a job that you're doing, and as a result of that, you end up procrastinating. Well, are you lazy? May not be in an absolute sense, because let's say you get another job that you love to do, and now you're just working all the time, you're excited. So that laziness was a function of that job. Our parents sometimes, like, you're just sitting there, you need to study. When I was a student, that was my mom. You're lazy, you're just sitting there. I'm not lazy, because even back then, my problem has been actually the opposite. I'm too active, my mind is overactive, and I keep doing things. So even when I was lazy, according to my mother, because I didn't study for my exams back then, I was, who wants math when you can go out and play in the field? So that kind of laziness, again, is relative. It may just be because you're not interested in that activity. Sometimes what may seem like laziness to one person may be filled with activity for the other person. Take an example of someone who plays video games. And in my case, because after a Kundalini awakening, if you expect my day-to-day routine to be full of yoga poses every day and sitting in meditation for 3 hours, no. My job, here's the fun part, is to let the energy do whatever it's doing. So let me show you kind of what happens, because I've never shown this on video. Even as I'm standing all the time, 24/7, the energy current keeps flowing through me, doing its work, whatever it's doing. I just have to get out of the way. And if there are blockages or something that is strongly opposing it, then I have to twist around. And that's when the yoga poses come in handy, kriyas, for example. So in my average day, I'm usually just standing, sitting, bending around. And while doing that, I may be watching TV. Meditation happens when you are after an awakening. In your unawakened state, you have a lot of thoughts. You have to sit. As Osho says, you have to do what is called a dynamic meditation. Some whirling, some dancing, something to get your mind free. And then slowly you get into that stillness and meditation happens. In my case, even as I'm sitting down, even as I'm doing these contortions and twisting, sometimes I feel, okay, now I'm slipping into meditation. And I'll sit down and just let it happen. And that's the sweetest way to get into meditation or samadhi, is letting it happen. The Hindu saint Kabir, well, he's not really Hindu, he's Hindu, Muslim, any religion, but the saint Kabir, Indian saint Kabir, once said, Sahaj Samadhi Bhali Re. What he means by that is, the simplest meditation, the simplest trance is the best. There is a field of yoga called Sahaj Yoga. And some people have asked me questions about that as well. And it is very similar. The Tao, Sahaj Yoga, and what Kabir is saying, slip into meditation. Okay, so after an awakening, you should expect this. Things like that, contortions, you're just sitting there. You slip into meditation automatically. It's all easy, smooth. Somebody watching me might say that I'm a lazy person. This guy's lazy, just sitting on the sofa going around, and suddenly he goes into trance or takes a nap, I guess. Is that laziness? Or let's say someone is a video game player and I don't play video games. And I say, look at this guy, he's lazy. He just sits there and plays video games all day. And maybe tomorrow I might find out this guy is the world champion gamer, making lots of money and has a lot of fans and following, is a big celebrity and devotes a lot of time, is disciplined, regimented about what games he plays, how he plays them, trains well, and is actually an athlete. So is that person lazy? That's just my perception, right? Here's what's more important than going into the definition of laziness. I understand what people are saying. It's not easy to discipline yourself and bring yourself to do certain things. I understand it completely. So for the rest of the video, I'm just going to talk about my experiences along with meditation, along with pranayama and kundalini, and what has happened to me after an awakening. I make these videos, this whole series of videos based on that and giving people that information and that knowledge. But what I kind of peripherally mention in my videos is I've always been one of these obsessive people who just takes pleasure in learning a new skill, a new hobby, a new art form from scratch. It's not enough that I got one good picture once. I have to obsessively find out other ways to making good photos. Okay? It's not enough to just be able to sing music. I need to understand it to in a certain depth. So I've always been that kind of a person. And then you have to bring yourself back to the initial stages, because everyone, even obsessive people like myself, have been lazy and tried to skip classes. Like if I went to the gym, for example, bodybuilding, let's take that as an example. That's the toughest one. You go to the gym, then something comes up the next day, you're like, oh, I'm hurting, I don't want to go. And you have to make yourself mentally go there, right? That's the tough part. How do you discipline yourself? And some of the solutions I can give you are simple things. One is, as I have said in the previous video, of being in the moment. You think from month to month, hour to hour. So last month, this month, last hour, this hour, last week, this week, last year, this year, and then last day, and this moment. And you're slowly getting your mind out of it. Similarly, for any activity you have decided, of course, it's always helpful to put up a board with a calendar showing red marks. You missed that day. Write that down. Find techniques where you say, okay, you have to sit down, you have to do this, set alarms, things like that. I mean, you have to bring yourself back. If you miss a class or if you miss a session of meditation, sure, you can say, okay, it's okay, one day is fine, as long as you go back and do it again. The easiest way I have found is set up 1 year for any activity, one whole year. So look, today is, let's say, the 1st of June. And you want to do this activity until the 1st of June of next year. What that trains you with, if you manage to do that, is come summer, winter, spring, fall, 4 seasons have come. Every excuse has come your way, and you have overcome different things. So in my case, oh, it's snowing too much today, or too hot today, I can't go, or no, I'm just not feeling like it today. Oh, I've been too busy today. So that's one excuse. Make a journal of those things, why you didn't do it that day. Make that your mindful awareness practice. See, you can combine these things. That's the other fun part. How to do many activities in 24 hours. That's my problem. Okay. So I found ways of how to do it. For example, when I'm posting something on Twitter or on Facebook, I make it a point never to use abbreviations unless I absolutely have to. If I'm filling out that 140 character limit on Twitter, sure, I might use a abbreviation or a number to the number instead of TOO, something like that. What that does is, if you want to be a writer, I write blogs, I would like to publish books someday, it helps you to discipline yourself to be at your best grammatical form. If I had allowed, let's say 5 years ago, for my language to become this abbreviated jumbo, fine, there's nothing wrong with that. It makes it easier to type, easier to text. But as a writer, if I want to be a good writer later on, what is the one activity that all of us are involved in at all times these days? Texting, Facebook posts, Twitter, tweets. So, if you make the 140 character limit on Twitter as a challenge, say, okay, how can I best fit a poem in there or some kind of a witty line? Say the most in the least number of words. You're making it a game. Now, you don't go and sit and say, okay, today I'm going to be an author and I'm going to be good at writing. No, you made it a game. It's fun, right? It's the same with meditation, yoga, pranayama. You can involve it with other activities. For example, when I started to learn to sing, here's the thing. If you love music and like to listen to a song, just as an amateur, just as a layperson listening to music for fun, your ears listen to it completely differently than once you start taking lessons and now you're listening to it in a different way, and now it's like, even if you wanted to, you cannot separate the technical aspects of it, that song, how they reached a certain level, how that voice modulated in a certain way. All of those things are now picked up by you because you're being trained, right? So even as you're listening to music, you're really learning about music. You're really learning about singing, right? So now with my training, a little bit, whatever I have, I'm not an expert yet. When I listen to something and I try to break it apart, and I immediately pull out the piano or the keyboard or the guitar or sing with it, I'm working on my music. Instead of sitting somewhere and saying, okay, this is my time to practice music, I'm going to sit there and now just music time. Easier for that to be skipped, to be part of what you call laziness or procrastination or But if you're doing it along with other activities, if you're taking other activities like listening to music and making it into a play, a fun thing, you're learning music. It doesn't seem like a chore, and you haven't missed your training day that day. As I said with Twitter, I'm a much better writer now because I use the activities that everyone uses anyways, emails, tweets, Facebook posts, and made them into a practice activity to get better at writing. So some ways of tricking yourself into learning something that otherwise you would have been lazy. Okay, that's just 2 examples. Take it any way you want, apply it to any of your activities the way you want to. Sometimes though, because I talk about the Tao and Zen, in the Tao, there is this concept called Wu Wei, W-U-W-E-I. It's called action through inaction. And that's a very deep concept. It doesn't mean you're inactive, lazy, or just sitting down. This is a higher concept. And this comes only after mastering something, which is why I'm all about mastery and martial arts and constant practice. There's a deeper thing involved there. Let's say you're doing a kata, a series of moves that just goes in a certain way, right? You've done it over and over and over again to the point that you are just in that activity, right? The actions you don't have to consciously focus on because they're just happening now. They're all part of your routine. You've done it many, many times. And that becomes your meditation. If you watch my video number 29, I think, chop wood, carry water, and I've said that eventually what you're trying to do is make every activity into a meditation. So all of this plays a role into that. First of all, not being lazy or finding ways to be active, finding ways to be focused on that action, doing it well, doing it to the best of your ability. And then this concept of Wu Wei, where the action is happening, you are in meditation, there is nobody doing the action, meaning your conscious mind is now involved in the action, in samadhi. Actions are happening, the body is doing the movement, and you are simply witnessing what is happening. You are part of everything. The doer, the action that's being done, and the witness that observes the whole. That's Wu Wei in Taoism, where actions are happening, but the witness is purely witnessing all of it. I hope that was helpful. Thank you. Be well.